Okay, this is your writing prompt that you will read on the next couple slides. We are going to do one example together. And notice that this says 2-day task. So you are welcome to start by taking notes today. And then tomorrow you can go ahead and write your final response after you have read more of the text. So let's read our writing prompt. 2-day task. How are you protected by the Constitution? Provide an example of freedom that you enjoy that you might not have without the Constitution. Use details from the text to support your answer. So I'm going to look over here to see what I need in order to write a successful constructive response. Number 1 says I need to restate the question, and number 2 says gives a direct answer to the question. These two go together. They are going to make up my first sentence. So let's find the question. How are you protected by the Constitution? I also notice that we are talking about freedoms here. So I'm going to go ahead and infer that the protection we are talking about here is referring to our freedom. Okay? So I am going to answer by first going back through the text to see. So tomorrow you are going to read chapter 4, How the Constitution Works. And in chapter 4, you'll read more about the specific freedoms that the Constitution helps protect. So if you skim through the text right now, you can notice that it says here, almost immediately after the Constitution was approved, amendments or changes were added. The Bill of Rights contains the first 10 amendments. So these amendments are changes to the Constitution, and those changes were made to protect certain freedoms. So some of the freedoms had to do with freedom of speech, freedom of the press, which refers to the news, such as magazine, the news on TV, news on the internet, and freedom of religion. There's some more freedoms on this page. You might notice here the freedom to vote. So I'm going to go ahead and focus on freedom of speech. Okay, one freedom I know that Americans have, that not all countries have, is the freedom of speech. So when I think of this question, when I reread it, how are you protected by the Constitution, I need to incorporate some of that in my answer, restates the question. So I'm going to start with the Constitution protects my, and then I'm going to give my answer. I have chosen to focus on freedom of speech. Okay. The Constitution protects my freedom of speech. Now I need to provide an example of freedom that I enjoy that I might not have had without the Constitution. So let's also look at these reminders for how to write a successful constructive response. It says to cite quotes and examples from the text. They've also given you a reminder here, use details from the text. And I need to give a thorough explanation to support my answer. So I need to use that example or that quote, and I need to use it in my explanation. Okay? So let's go back to the text to pick which quote will help explain our answer the best. So here it says, this bill made sure that people had certain rights, such as the right to free speech. Okay? So I'm going to take this quote, but you might notice that it starts with this bill. So I am going to, I'll go ahead and put in that quote. The text states, this bill made sure that people had certain rights. Such as the right to free speech, and I don't need the rest, so I'm going to end it there. So this says this bill. My reader doesn't know what this bill is referring to, so I need to explain a little bit here. Okay? So I can explain that the Bill of Rights was added to the Constitution and included the first 10 amendments. So shortly after the Constitution was added. Now I'm going to edit this a little bit because I notice it's very similar to the text and I want to put it in my own words. So I'm going to write, the Bill of Rights was added to the Constitution shortly after it was made. The Bill of Rights was added to, no, I don't like that it right here. I want to say the Constitution there. So I'm going to write, the Bill of Rights was added shortly after the Constitution was made. I want to be very clear about what I'm talking about was being made. Let's reread, since we've done a lot of editing. The Constitution protects my freedom of speech. The Bill of Rights was added shortly after the Constitution was made. The text states this bill made sure that people had certain rights, such as the right to free speech. All right. I would like to explain a little bit further because I notice it says give a thorough explanation. So I'm going to explain how I enjoy this freedom and the way I like to think of this. Well, when I think about where freedom of speech is the most important, I think about when people are trying to make a change, they use their freedom of speech to make a difference. They go to peaceful protests. They write news articles. They get the word out there and they're able to express their beliefs. And I think that is important. So I am going to use that in my explanation. So I'm going to write, this is an important freedom to protect because it allows people to, actually this question is asking about me, so I'm going to say it allows me to express my beliefs and stand up for what I believe in. Because my freedom of speech is protected by the Bill of Rights, I am able to peacefully protest to make try to make changes. I am able to peacefully protest to try to make changes I think are needed. Okay. Lastly, we need to end with a conclusion that summarizes my key points. So I am going to reread what I have so far, and I'm going to bring my last sentence back to my answer at the end. I'm going to restate my answer at the end so that my reader is clear about what my final answer is. I may incorporate some of the details here if they are important. The Constitution protects my freedom of speech. The Bill of Rights was added shortly after the Constitution was made. The text states, "This bill made sure that people had certain rights, such as the right to free speech." This is an important freedom to protect because it allows me to express my beliefs and stand up for what I believe in. Because my freedom of speech is protected by the Bill of Rights, I am able to peacefully protest to try to make changes I think are needed. So I'm going to conclude with, let's reread the question. How are you protected by the Constitution? So I'm going to say, in this way, the Constitution provides protection for my freedom of speech and ability to express myself. All right, this is my response to this writing prompt. Your response is going to be a little bit different. So, tomorrow, as you read chapter 4 here, you may notice other freedoms. You can choose other freedoms